So I want to link back to, Heather, your study at PwC, and what did you, talk a little bit more about that. What did you find there that was enlightening and news to you about millennials in the workplace?
So, I mentioned earlier that we realized that it was really important that we were asking the right questions and having the right dialogue with this demographic when we're looking at people being our biggest asset and how we attract top talent. So some of the things we find defining this generation that most play into the discussion we're having right now, this use of technology is not, some of us, so depending on the generation, grew up without technology. I mean, my parents didn't have television sets when they were young, not because they weren't invented, but because they weren't accessible to them. For me, the technology we had was just entertainment. Like you might have a little handheld video game. By handheld, I mean, it's like this. But it was just entertainment. And now, today, millennials technology for them is completely ingrained in their daily lives. And in fact, I'm if I, not to call out my colleagues here, but some of us have paper notes and some of us have multiple devices on the table. And I think when you grow up with it, you just have a very different comfort level on how to use it. And we see that playing in a variety of different ways. Part of it is that millennials come to work knowing that they have key work-relevant skills that are stronger than some of the people that they're working for. And that's something new. When I joined the workforce, it was understood that anyone older than me knew more than me. And I really bought into that. That generally was the paradigm. And now, today we talk about reverse mentoring, where we recognize there's a lot to learn in both directions. And that has millennials come to work with a different viewpoint on the value that they add and their place in the organization. Technology also means that for them it is not so much about the knowledge as it is about the skills and the experience. That they have knowledge at their fingertips. They're not just interested in what can you teach me. They want to know, where can I go? What can I do? How can I participate? At what level will I be participating? They simultaneously want to be part of the conversation, and at the same time, when they get the assignment, they want to be able to go off on their own and do it in their own style and at their own pace, and they don't want to be judged by the hours that they work in the office and what they were wearing when they did it. They want to be judged by the results, meeting the target. I think it was Mark who outlined, give me the checklist. What does success look like? And I'll meet that, which is very interesting. I think in contrast to when we first started talking about millennials' expectations at work, that there was, I think, this misconception that was because they didn't want to work hard. And in fact, millennials are saying, oh no, that part's understood. I know what the value I bring to the table. We don't need to talk about that. I want to know, what opportunities am I going to have to show it off? So technology definitely playing a huge role in their perceptions around work-life balance, where they can work, how they work. Another major factor in influencing this group is coming into the workforce during an economic crisis. So I'll just date myself. I got my first job in 1994, and it wasn't a great year in the economy. But the sentiment was basically like, oh, it always comes back around again. And the sentiment today is a lot more like, do we need to have some major paradigm shifts around how we view financial planning in this country? And so we are looking at college debt in a completely different way. I think for my generation it was more, hey, do what you have to do to get through school and you'll always earn that back and pay it off. And now there's a lot more scrutiny put to the return on that investment in time and dollars. You see it a lot in the medical profession, in the law profession, certainly in accounting, that a combination of supply and demand with the risk and reward balance of being in the business that students today are really asking, it's not just what do I want to be when I grow up, but what will it take to do it, and is that an investment I'm willing to make? The financial crisis also has millennials saying, a high number of them are saying, like in the 70s percentile wise, that they had to compromise to get their first job, which should scare those of us who are hiring them in large numbers, because that means if things turn around, they're not necessarily staying. George alluded to this in being with one company for 7 years, that our survey also showed that around 78% are either actively looking for a new job right now, or would definitely be interested in hearing about one if it came their way. So we can't assume that because we have them today, that we have their loyalty long term. And I think part of that is about looking at what we can build, and this is certainly at the core of my role when I think about our community programs. What can we build that makes them really feel a part of our culture and want to be with us longer, want to be part of, for me, that's part of our PwC experience, wanting to be a part of that. The other piece of it is probably recognizing that there's always going to be a fair amount of turnover and building that into our business plans. It's a little bit challenging for me that both of these things are true, but millennials are reporting shopping for their employer the way they might shop other brands, who they want to be associated with, whether they're choosing electronics or clothing, whether they wear labels or don't wear labels. It's not unlike how they're choosing their employer. They want to know, do we have shared values? Is this a reputation I want to attach myself with? And you can see that, I think, so PwC isn't my first employer, it wasn't my second employer. And if we want to go, back further in time, there's more to, but even just talking out of school. But PwC is what I identify myself with, and at 15 years, some might call me a lifer, to be determined. But in contrast, I have Mark on my right talking about his time and pride in working in America's Charities, and George on my left talking with great pride of his work at DoSomething.org. And so there's there's brand loyalty and an attachment to who you associate yourself with, while at the same time it doesn't mean you're going to stay. So a lot of factors at play that, again, are coming out of looking at this time in the economy. We also see this in terms of their interest in compensation. So while these surveys still demonstrate that people care very much about their initial salary package and the location of where they're working, knowing again that 70-some% report having compromised in selecting their roles. At the same time, once they're working with you, a lot of them are saying, when it comes to rewarding my work, I'd rather have time off than more money. I would rather have more flexibility in my schedule than a bonus. I would like to have more flexibility in where I work. And actually, above all else, we're seeing high demand for opportunities, learning and growth opportunities. They want strong mentors. They want to be able to work in different countries. They want just opportunities to take on more responsibility, work on different types of projects, or as Mark said, promotions, early and often. When I first read that, and you phrased this, Marcia, like what did we learn, and to make it personal, what did I learn? I thought, again, coming from my generational mindset, I was like, well, that's just not possible. I mean, the organization's a pyramid, so everyone can't get promoted early and often, or it would just turn upside down. I mean, how do you make that happen? But Mark gave some good examples of this too, that it doesn't just have to be the traditional route. It can be about building in more layers. It can be about different kinds of badging. Is it your core responsibility, or is it a champion role that you take on? Or other hats that you can wear. So I think a lot of this too is about being creative in that. And to bring it back to this community space in my day job, you know, I think what I need to provide when I look at this population within the firm is, am I giving them opportunities either to run a volunteer project or demonstrate leadership in some other way through the volunteering? A huge part of our program, which Charlotte Coker-Gibson on our team here at PwC runs, is our commitment to youth education, PwC's Earn Your Future, and a huge portion of that is focused on financial literacy. And when we give our staff an opportunity to go into classrooms and present to students in the front of the room, this is a growth opportunity, it's a leadership opportunity, can also be a networking opportunity. Are we sending them out to schools with partners at our firm who they would like to spend time with? So there are a lot of ways that we can address their interests in ways that, additionally, as I said earlier, make a big impact in the community while building a solid brand for PwC, or a solid giving culture. And that in turn further helps us with recruiting and retention and attracting the kind of talent that shares our values and feeds back into growing that giving culture further.